everybody. Everybody hear me?
Yes.
Everybody hear me? All right, if anybody doesn't know me, my name's Jeff Murray. I'm the
Vice Versa.
vice versa. I'd like to call this Town of Andover annual budget meeting to order. First thing I'm going to do is read the agenda. The electors and citizens qualified to vote in the town meeting, Town of Andover, are hereby notified that the annual budget meeting of the Town of Andover will be held at the Andover Elementary School in the Gymnasium, 35 School Road, Andover, Connecticut, on Wednesday, April 9th, 2025, at 7 o'clock p.m. for the following purposes. Number one, to choose a moderator for said meeting. Two, to receive the budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026, as prepared by the Board of Finance. To approve the budget for the fiscal year July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2026. And four is adjourned. Copies of the budget are available in the town clerk's office. Voting by absentee ballot is not permitted for this meeting. Dated Andover, Connecticut, this day, 26th of March, 2025. Signed, the Andover Board of Selectmen. Agenda item number one, to choose a moderator for said meeting. Do I have any nominations?
Second.
Nominated by
Motion and who seconded, Ricky needs the information. Harold Martin made the motion and.
That's the way it's-
Thomas Ware second.
Okay, all in favor of Wally Martin for moderator?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All you have the floor.
Thank you. Couple of items, just to bring everybody up to speed. At this meeting, the only thing that can happen to the budget is items may be reduced. You cannot add to any line item at this meeting. Secondly, at the end of this meeting, you don't technically approve the budget because the budget goes to referendum at the end of this meeting. You can request to reduce a line item by a specific dollar amount in the form of a motion that has to be seconded. Then it's open for debate and then voted on. As far as the Andover Elementary School budget, you cannot do anything with the line items, only the bottom line of that budget. And again, RAM is voted on referendum. It will not really have a discussion here tonight. So with that, turn it over to the Board of Finance for their presentation.
Thank you, Wally. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight. My name is Mark Pointer. I'm the chair for the Town of Andover Board of Finance. I guess on behalf of the Selectmen and the Board of Education, especially the Board of Finance, I wanted to thank you all for being here tonight. This is a big team effort. First of all, along the three boards, we all put a lot of time and effort into this process, and you're part of the team now too. It's important. This is how it gets done, so thank you for your participation. All right, I'm going to go through a presentation. If you would, you can hold up your hand if you have questions, but I'd like to get through most of this, and then we'll have a question and answer period. So hopefully it'll be fairly clear. I know some of the text is hard to read, and you have printouts in front of you. You might need a magnifying glass to read them, but the data is there. So thanks very much. I'll go ahead and get started. So, this is our agenda from at least the Board of Finance's presentation. We're going to go through the budget process, talk a little bit about that. We're going to go through the expenditures. So we have three main expenditures in our town budget. The RAM expenditure for education, Andover Elementary School expenditures, and then the town budget, which is both capital and operating expenses. We'll talk about the revenue that the town brings in. You bring in revenue other than taxes. And we'll have a quick summary, talk about the capital plan for the next few years. So this is a little different. We haven't done this in any real detail over the last couple of years. We've attended the meetings there, but it is something that is in the charter, and so we're making sure we meet that obligation. We'll keep it as brief as possible. We'll have a question and answer period, and then it's, Wally mentioned, we can entertain motions to accept the budget, to change the budget line items. Again, as you say, we can only reduce, we can't add to specific line items. Okay, just talking about the budget process, I won't spend a lot of time on this, I will bore you to tears. We had a lot of snoring before we ever got to the thing, but we have a preliminary town operating budget. This is submitted to the selectmen. First, I should back up, there's a lot of work that goes on ahead of time. The town administrator prepares the budget template along with the treasurer, goes out to all the departments, they bring out their proposed budget for their departments, basically zero-based budgeting. They build the budget from there, and then it goes to the selectmen. The selectmen and the Board of Finance have an opportunity to make changes, or as they do. Ultimately, they present that to the Board of Finance. We go on from there. Separately, the Andover Elementary Board of Education presents their requested budget. That becomes part of the overall budget. The revised operating budget is submitted to the Board of Finance, and that's when we take over. We receive the budget and begin our review. So that happens over several months, and I know a lot of you know we had a lot of meetings to go over this. Finally, this happened last week. The Board of Finance held a public hearing on the budget. We actually just take comments in from the public. Of course, the public speak in all of our meetings, so you also have an opportunity to contribute at that point, or email any of us at any time. Then we finalize the recommended budget for the town meeting tonight. And that happened following the public hearing. And that's where we are today. There is also a separate grant budget referendum, and I just wanted to point that out. Wally already discussed it, so that's not really part of our discussion. Quick budget breakout by entity. Again, the three main contributors to the town budget. I know this is difficult to see, but they're very equal in terms of their contribution. The town operating budget is about 32%. The Andover Board of Education is 36%, and the RAM budget is about 32%. Okay, this is our proposed budget for the 2025-2026 fiscal year. It's $13,062,497. That's about 2.8% more than the current approved budget. The budget that we approved at the meeting last year. All right. The various elements of that are the Board of Education's budget at $4,729,155. Change of $381,000 roughly, an increase of about 8.8%. The RAM middle school, high school budget recommended, or actually the budget for the RAM, this is just a line item we don't change or act on, is $4,135,532. It's actually a decrease of $14,754, minus 0.4%. We'll talk about the reasons for that in a moment. And then we have the town budget, which is set at $4,197,809. Okay, that's a slight decrease of $104,818. Okay, we're about 2.4% down from last year's approved budget. First, just a little review of the Andover Elementary School budget. This is set by the Andover Board of Education. It's not something the Board of Finance gets too involved in, other than to have a review of the budget with the board and the superintendent. So we've already talked about their number for this year. Their approved number is $4,729,155. This is an 8.8% increase from the 24-25 budget. The main drivers for that increase, I've got this right, we have Board of Ed members and the superintendent to answer specific questions you may have. We had new staff in the budget, it's about 3.1, I think, FTE. And then there's a benefits increase along with that, some of the contractual and things, some of it's new hires. And then there's some also technical licenses and stuff they're driving a little bit more increase. Okay, the RAM budget levy. So the RAM budget levy, as you said, is voted on in a separate budget referendum. So we will have a separate vote on that. It doesn't happen here, but it's a part of what we have to spending issue. So we just want to go over that to make sure you understand it. So the overall RAM budget is $32,620,000 roughly. That's a 2.6% increase. But our levy is $4,237,347. So our levy decreased, our percentage decreased from 13.43% to 12.99%. So that's why the RAM budget is actually going down this year for us. It's because the percentage of Andover students at RAM decreased relative to the other towns. So that'll change year to year depending on how many Andover students are going to the RAM schools versus even in Marway. In a different year, it's going to be a different time. So that does fluctuate. In addition, RAM returned a portion of the prior surplus to the towns rather than socking it away, as I think they had the right to do under the law. They reviewed it and decided that they could do that. And so there's actually a plan that's coming to town with $101,000. I know that's Andover's total levy per RAM is $4,135,532, which is an overall decrease, as I said, about $40,574. Okay, town budgets, which is we'll go into what you got in front of them. I'll talk about some of the differences in the drivers there. So this is the town budget, not including on the educational expenses and separate. You have two main components. One is the operating budget. This is just the money that we spend every year to keep the town running and providing services. The other part of it is the capital budget. So that's the budget for major capital expenditures, the big things we have to purchase, fire truck, public works equipment, community center, all of those things are typically covered in capital funding, road work, tree work, etc. We'll first talk about the operating budget. This is our expenditures just year to year to provide the daily services that town provides. We have an overall increase this year from $3,039,000 roughly to $3,194,000. It's about $155,000 increase, roughly about a 5% increase. Okay. The main factors contributing to the budget, there are some staff salary increases per the contract. Okay. This is what we paid. We had two contractors at the transfer station, haven't had them for a long time. The vendor was only billing us for one. So they figured that one out, now we're going to pay for two. So that's there's about $10,000 just added right there. We added part-time assistant for the additional assistant for the community center. That's about $11,000 in cost. The state trooper costs increased about $14,000. This isn't something we have control over. The town decided to have a state trooper, resident state trooper. We get whatever state trooper they assign to us, and that number will change year to year depending on that person's seniority. Brush pile removal, this is about $20,000. This is not something we do every year, it's something we do every 3 years. So this year we need to have that brush pile removed. That's with the transfer station, you get down to brush, we have to have that removed. Again, we don't do it every year, it's more cost effective to do it once every 3 years. And then we did have actually a reduction in our tipping fees. These are the costs for actually taking the trash from the transfer station. So sometimes some years they go up, then recently they've gone down. So that's a good thing, so we offset that. So we're actually kind of fortunate this year. There isn't a lot that's going on in that budget to change things for us, for the town operating things. So considering inflation and everything else, we're doing okay. We're doing pretty well. If you look at the budget, there's a lot of very small changes line by line. The one that really stands out. So that's good. Okay, so the capital budget. So this is where we put a lot of money into various funds to pay for, again, the larger expenses that the town incurs. We're decreasing our capital budget this year. We're reducing the contributions to the major funds in this budget. Still maintains, as we have here, a pretty strong commitment to repairing or replacing the infrastructure, mostly roads and bridge work related. Some of you may remember, we actually had a significant increase last year, I think the year before, to help better fund the town road, better fund the town road fund, because we had neglected it for a very long time. And our commitment was to try to not have that increase year over year, but to get to a level that made sense, so that we can actually maintain the roads in a decent condition. So we think that's where we are. We have not made any big adjustments to the town aid road fund. In fact, we actually reduced it a little bit by about $50,000. We also had to change the fund. There's an Andover Elementary School capital fund. We established this last year, put about $100,000 in seed money in it. This was a problem prior because the elementary school did not have any way to fund major projects. We just didn't have it set up for them. They don't have a means to have a capital fund separately from the town. So we had to set one up in the town to make sure that we could fund the major projects. And there's a lot of them that have to happen in the schools. They all register. So we didn't fund that this year. Instead, most of the funding for the AES Capital Fund is coming from any surplus that comes from the school budget. Okay, and we actually had quite a bit following the audit this year, about $360,000 return was added to that fund. We also reduced the amount to the building maintenance fund by about $67,000, and we reduced the amount going to the open space fund by about $40,000. The open space fund, by the way, that's what we use if there happens to come up a parcel for sale that the town wishes to acquire to maintain open space as opposed to having it used for development. That money is used to potentially purchase that fund. Okay, it's just a pie chart of capital contributions. Look at the big yellow chunk at the bottom. That's a road improvement fund. That's where most of the funding goes. It's a big source of funding. The next one is the Public Works Equipment Fund. And then the orange one on the upper corner is the Fire Protection Fund. That's most of them. Those are really obligated to make decisions as a town at town meetings to purchase, for example, a new tank. And we have about 10 years worth of payments to make out. So that's just got to happen. Okay, and again, just to break out our major fund contributions, these are the big numbers. Fire department equipment is $137,000. Public Works equipment $125,000. Road improvement $360,000. This year, kind of a reduction of $400,000. Tree removal $50,000, and then the bridge and culvert repair and replacement at $175,000. Most of you have probably seen signs up for the Buckringham Road culvert replacement. There's some of the others that are pending. Those are long overdue, and we got to thank our lucky stars. And most of those are being funded by the state or by the federal government. And we have to do some matching funds in some cases, or we have to pay for the design effort in some cases. We've been really fortunate. We're going to get a lot of work done and paid for by the state. Revenue. Not going to go into too much detail here. There's many sources of revenue. They're listed, I think, in your budget spreadsheet. Again, with the magnifying glass. We have interest. This is a big one. We're making about $150,000 on interest-bearing accounts. Again, thanks to our treasurer and our town administrator, Eric. Found a stiff account opportunity, and we now put our money into interest-bearing accounts. Interest rates have been pretty high the last couple of years. We've done pretty well. Probably will go down this year, but let's see how it goes. State and federal grants. We get grants from both the federal government and state. Educational cost sharing is a big one. The state does disperse educational funds to help smaller towns and other disadvantaged municipalities help balance the educational opportunities in the state. They get cut this year. We hope maybe they'll go again, but we'll see. Permits and fees. I just had solar installed on my house and paid for the permit there, so that's where we make some money on renovations in the building. Also, your transfer fees, when you go to the transfer station, you have to pay for that sticker. Overall, the revenues are pretty flat this year. Very little change, about $4,000 down. Not much change. Okay, so summary. To summarize the budget, I know I went through this fairly quickly, but again, you should have it in front of you. The elementary school at 4.7 million roughly, 8.8% increase. We're at 4.1 million, minus 0.4. And the town overall budget, again, our operating budget went up at the town, but because we decreased the funding of the capital accounts, overall it actually is going down slightly by about $100,000. We also are going to use some of the fund balance. The fund balance is some of the extra money that's left in the town. You can think of it as a contingency fund that we use in case of major emergencies, crises, natural disasters, etc. So we are going to use some of that money, finding out more than we probably need in there. We're going to use some of that money to offset some of the increases this year. And then this leaves the remaining total by taxation at about $10,255. Sorry, $10,255,000, 557.
Yeah.
$10,255,557. I've been looking at this spreadsheet straight for about 3 days, so my apologies. That's an increase of about $204,000, $205,000 overall, which is about a 2.1% increase overall. Okay. Now let's talk about the mill rate. This can be confusing, so I know a lot of you have heard this over and over if you've been to these town meetings, but I just want to explain it. So the mill rate is a percentage. It's just a ratio that is multiplied by your personal property value to get your tax rate. Okay, so the mill rate is based on the valuation of the property in town. Okay. Now, the state legislature passed a law this year where they changed the way that vehicles are valued, and in most cases, it reduced the value of vehicles in town. So what that does is reduce the grand list overall. So vehicle values went down, your home value is assessed value is what it is. That didn't change, so that actually reduced our grand list, which is the kind of evaluation of all the property. So we use that grand list, which is on the line right here, at about $316 million. That's what we have to base our tax. So, when your total expenditures are about $13 million, our estimated revenue is about $2.7 million. We're going to use the fund balance, and then we have an offsetting payment and exemptions. These are exemptions to certain taxes that are given to, I believe it's the fire department, and in some cases disabled veterans. I got that right here? Correct. So the total we raised by taxes, again, I'll say it right this time, $10,255,557. And then there's the grand list. That means that 1 mil of 1,000, so that is 316,000. Again, you don't really need to worry too much about the menu share. But the mill rate is 32.39. Now, the increase there over last year is 2.95%. It doesn't mean your taxes are going up 2.95%. It just means that the mill rate is. So in most cases, for most of us, your auto, property tax, other property tax, other than your house, is going to be reduced. So the mill rate just increases to keep the tax rate basically. Okay, and then finally, our total taxation is determined by the total budget offset by the revenue. Calculated mill rate is 32.39, which again is up about 0.95%. Just as an example, this is solely a theoretical example, don't hold to your house value. A house that's assessed at $200,000 will pay about $6,478 in town taxes. Okay, so pointing out also, I just want to make this point, as I said, for most taxpayers, your vehicle taxes will probably go down relative to where they were under the last evaluation process, but your overall taxation will be the same. So again, that leaves us with an overall tax increase for the town at about 2.1%. Okay, now just a couple of quick slides of the capital plan. This is looking down the road. It's important because I don't think we've always done enough of this. So kudos to the selectmen and to Eric and everybody who's been involved in really, helping us, encouraging us to look down the road and do some better planning. Okay. 25, 26, we've got a lot of projects in. We already talked about one of them, that's the Mulberry Hill Road Bridge construction. Again, 80% federal, 20% state funding. We still had to put up quite a bit of money for design and other parts of that, but all in all, it's a great bargain. We're also looking at Lake Road and the Sola Road culvert replacement. Should get that underway in the summer of 2026. And it's about 50% state funded. The rest we'll take from our bridge and culvert fund. You need to look at updating the municipal generator. I've covered the whole community complex here, the fire department, the town hall, and the community center. And that's the way of the septic system there. And we're submitting, trying to get congressional funding for fiscal year 26 on that. And then road work. We always have road work. It never updates that, right? 2 seasons, winter and construction. So we're working on the construction season. Long term, 2027, 2031, Long Hill Road bridge construction. Again, we're anticipating 2027, 80% federal, 20% state funding. We're gonna have to put up some design work money, and we also have to pay for that ahead of time and get reimbursed, but so far the feds have been good. Culvert replacement, we have a lot of different culverts that need replacing. Some are really in poor condition, failing. We need to do better on that. Again, municipal generator backup, we'll see where that gets. Maybe a little bit of a longer term project. And then we've got some additional projects. Most of these are smaller. We don't require so much advanced planning. We're looking at doors and ceiling for the Andover Museum, rebuilding the chimney on the library, re-roofing the gazebo. We're on the green up front with big panels depending on the community and seats. So that's our capital plan. It's giving you an overview for the next few years. So I think this is all correct. We had a couple of language changes this year. But just to remind you about the process here, Wally talked about it, I talked about it. But we're at the town budget meeting now. For the charter, we can take the vote to adopt the budget and make amendments to the proposed budget. However, the town meeting shall only have the power to reduce or modify but not increase the budget or any portion thereof. Okay. The town meeting may not alter any specific items contained in the budget proposed by the local board of education, and the town meeting shall adjourn to a referendum to be held on Tuesday following the first nomination. So we'll go to the question and answer period. Members of the Board of Selectmen, Board of Ed, and Board of Finance are here to do our best to answer the questions you have. Hopefully we'll be able to following along a little bit in the process already. I know it's complicated, we all need busy lives, but this is our chance. Please use the microphone when you do, and state your name and street address for the meeting. Okay, and back over.
We only have one microphone. Again, since there's so many people here, that you hold your comments to within 3 minutes. And once you've spoken, we'll move around other speakers before we go back and do it the person. So that one person does not monopolize the entire meeting. So we'll open it up first for questions or finance. Someone want to raise their hand, and I'll see with microphone if you have a question.
Hi, my name is Gloria Avila, I live on Aston Drive. My first question is about the line in here for legal, for advertising. I've never seen Andover advertised anywhere, so I'm kind of wondering what that $6,000 for advertising is. And the other one that I was wondering about is the beautification that went up like a considerable amount, and what they plan on beautifications for the town. With that, Route 6 running 83. One more question. I noticed considerable increases, they said by contract, so I'm wondering if everybody who's employed by the town that's getting an increase, are they all under contract, or are there any non-union people getting increases this year? Thank you.
It's not a Board of Finance question. Actually, on the advertising, it's legal notices that are required. This is the one that announced the legal non-budget. So it's, and I think planning and zoning commission and others hold hearings, they have to legally advertise them. And I'll let Eric and Board of Finance give it.
Sure. Okay, well, so the first one was regarding the beautification committee. The beautification committee asked for more money due to things. The first is to address and continue to do plantings at the community center. And the second thing is the Board of Selectmen and Board of Finance have approved a second Welcome to Andover sign, and that covers the cost of hiring a contractor to do plantings and a little wall around both of those new signs. That was the beautification request. What was the third one?
All increases in salaries and using requirements to the contract. Increases.
Got it. So there's basically 4 flavors of town employees. The first are people who are governed by union contract. That is actually the majority of the full-time employees. There are people that have individual employment contracts. That is typically essentially the senior staff, if you would put it that way, which would be myself, the Director of Public Works, the Director of the Andover Library, and the Director of the Community Center. And then there's everybody who is not an elected official, but is a town employee. Everybody that's in the category of being an elected official but not a town employee, it is the Board of Selectmen that sets salary and compensation for those individuals. Everybody that is an elected official, their salary and compensation is set by the Board of Finance. Does that answer your question?
Not really. As I asked, is everybody on here who was getting raises if they were union employees? Not
The
if
answer
they
is
had-
no.
Not if they had contracts, if they were union employees is what I asked. So are you a union employee?
I am not a union employee.
Okay. Are the town clerks union employees?
The town clerk is not a union employee. The assistant town clerk, who's the acting town clerk, in the absence of a town clerk, which we don't have at the moment, is a union employee.
And all of you guys who work down town rates, they're all union employees?
No, 4 of the 5 members of Public Works are union employees. The supervisor is not a union employee. We tend to not have any supervisors in the union of the employees that they supervise.
And has meals and mileage always been covered for these people?
So meals and mileage is covered under winter conditions when they are snow plowing and when they're working beyond a normal work day. So yes, that has always been, that's been in the union contracts for at least the last 15 years. And I don't know past that.
Next, please. Anyone?
Donald Denley, Lakeside Drive. So for many years, we operated Public Works, the three positions. And now we have 5, that has grown under this current administration. And I'm looking at $312,000 in salaries. And I was wondering if we could break out those numbers approximately and let us know how much the foreman is making and how much our individual Public Works people are making. My other question is the community center, which I'm a big fan of. I worked for many years and on a committee to bring us a community center, because we never had one in any town this side of the river. So we have limited hours that the community center is open, And from what I see, limited activity, yet we're paying a 26-hour-a-week person $45,000, and now we're scheduled for a raise. And we have a new proposal for a part-time assistant at another $11,000. Just seems like $58,000 to run our community center is a bit excessive. I'd just like to maybe get some comments from the Board of Finance and the Board of Selectmen on that. But Eric, do I ask you the salaries for the public works people? Do we get that from you, or who do we get that from?
So I can tell you approximately, the public works supervisor makes approximately $95,000 a year. I can't tell you down to the penny. And then currently we have one maintainer one on staff, one maintainer two, two people at the maintainer two rank, and the third is at the maintainer 3 level. And those salaries range, good question. I can tell you an hourly wage, a maintainer 1 makes around $21 an hour. A maintainer 2 makes around $26 an hour. And a maintainer 3 makes around $28 an hour.
Regarding the community center, someone give you any thoughts that the water funding? You have money? Community center?
I think Eric is looking at this answer.
It was a, Eric's.
Yeah, I wasn't at the Board of Selectmen meeting when they made those decisions. So those decisions are typically made at Board of Selectmen meetings in conjunction with the town administrator. So that was based on their request about the best possible funding and use. The belief is that the current community center director has her hands full. We do hope to continue utilizing that even more. And the thinking there was it needed to be funded at a higher level with more hours. Jeff, I don't know if you guys
Hi, I'm Julian Bieber. I'm not going to, go against what Mark said because we're a united board, of course. I think the salaries, because we've spent a lot of time studying all the spreadsheets and all of this information painstakingly. I have a few things to bring up this evening. I think they're a little higher for the public works employees. So I think that's, I think the lowest one is in the 50,000 a year range, going up to the 62,000. So, not to go against what Mr. Anderson said. And then we did have a meeting where I was present last year when we did set the salaries for the senior center, new community center director, which we were all excited to finally have the senior center, community center in town. And there was a salary set of a certain amount by the Board of Finance for a full-time person. I mean, that's on record, it's in minutes. So that was the expectation of that. They've since added a part-time person, so that'll be up to, the community. But I just wanted to give you my viewpoint of what I've been studying.
Scott Celia in Boston Hill Road. Just a comment, not a question. For some reason, I spent a lot of time looking at the charter the last 6 months, 8 months. Maybe other people remember why. And I noticed that the section 802E3 describes how the budget is supposed to be presented. And they talk about a 5-column format that we haven't done lately and did not do again this year. And I just think we either should change the charter to fix that, to adopt what we're doing, or actually go back to what's in there. That's all.
Next.
Marcy Minor, West Street. I have a question for the Board of Finance, and I have one for the Board of Selectmen. I'll ask that one later. From what I understand, we have 3 branches of government here in Andover. We have the Board of Education that oversees the Andover Elementary School. We have the Board of Selectmen that oversees the entire town. And we have the Board of Finance that oversees the spending of the other 2 boards. Is the Board of Finance that is essentially the town's financial arm, as far as I understand. We elect these members, and we expect them to keep an eye on finances of the other 2 boards. They represent us, and we trust them to watch over things for us. I understand these volunteers work very hard, and I've seen and been to the meetings, and we know that you guys work really hard. You're smart, hardworking, but I understand that sometimes you might not feel like looking too deep into the finances. It's so much more fun to give people what they want. It's especially hard when you look at things and the receiving end bullies you and makes you feel bad for asking the hard questions. I've seen with my own eyes bullying and the name calling in these boards. While I expect hard feelings when people don't get what they want, the bullying, gaslighting is not what we should have. What we townspeople want is the Board of Finance to expect the other 2 boards to spend wisely and to be respectful of the townspeople by using restraint with their budgets. What I'm seeing, though, is the Board of Finance spending hours upon hours going through the town's budget with a fine-tooth comb, and then swiftly sending the Board of Education budget right through to this meeting. There was discussion about this, and Mark, you tried to say you're not allowed to touch it. This may be true, however, you know that you can make requests for the board to use restraint. What I'm seeing here is a total disregard for the townspeople. The Board of Education has increased their spending significantly year after year. They have so much more money that they're looking for places to spend it, and now they're currently asking for 8.8% increase. This, I feel, is spitting in the face of the townspeople. I'm going to ask you a question, and I want to sit down because I'm not the only one that wants to answer this. Mark, why did you not discuss the Board of Ed budget, and what will you do to get the Board of Education to reduce its budget?
It's a fair question. I mean, I'll say that right up front. The charter is very clear. The Board of Ed, or the Board of Finance may not make changes to the Board of Education budget. Okay. Certainly, we have questioned in many cases the superintendent and the Board of Ed on their spending. I'm not going to speak for the entire Board of Finance. We have limited ability and limited leverage to make a lot of changes. I will say that. We cannot make any changes, actually. All we can do is advise. Is that where we want to spend our time, arguing with them? We do sometimes. I would agree that we do spend sometimes challenging them. We haven't always been happy with the answers. But ultimately, I think that the main thing, if you want to reduce the spending of the education budget, is to propose the change in tonight's meeting and or to go to the Board of Education meetings where the original budget is approved. That's really where these changes should be addressed, okay? I mean, I don't disagree that it's our role to provide some oversight, question. We're not always happy with what we've got from the Board of Ed. That's on record. But I think that's where these changes really need to be addressed. It's my opinion.
So Marcy, I would just add to the fact that we really don't have any control over that budget. We are aware that it is a good sized increase this year, and the board took a hard look at all the other budgets. And you can see that we actually have a lower operating budget this year. We cut a lot of things, open space fund, road fund, many other things, some salaries. So it's not we're just like, don't care about you. We did know that there's a big increase coming on the Board of Ed, so we cut back the operating budget as much as we could without hurting the town. So we do care and we tried to get the budget as low as we could on the operating side, but we have no control over the education budget.
Someone else?
May I say something? Hi, I'm Kate Greenhouse. I'm the chair of the Board of Ed currently. So I would just use this as a moment to say, we do have budget meetings for the Board of Ed as well. They're open to the public. We have an email available for people to send questions and comments while we're working on the budget. And it's typically presented through a couple of workshops and then presented at a meeting, and then we vote on it on the following meeting the following month. So there's plenty of time for us to get feedback from townspeople, and we have struggled for years to get people involved or interested in the Board of Ed budget until it comes to this meeting tonight. And I would just encourage all of you that have questions about it and concerns and would like to give input to please come sooner and give that input and help us come up with a budget and understand what goes into it and understand what the components are to teach our children. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Val Bruno. I am the superintendent here. One thing that I wanted to add when we're looking at the budget, in almost every one of Mark's slides until the very last one, actually labeled our budget accurately. It said that it was the Andover Board of Education budget. The last slide said Andover Elementary School. And the one thing that I would like to point out is we are a small town and we are only one school. And so it says Andover Elementary School, but I really want to point out the fact that that budget is an operational budget, and it includes everything related to educating the kids that attend AES, and also all of the expenses related to this largest building in town. So that budget is a budget that is not only to educate the kids, but it's to run and operate 35 School Road. And remember, even things like the lights being on tonight when we're not in school session, we pay that bill. The heat, we pay that bill. Everything related to 35 School Road is in that budget. All of the 3 to 12-year-old kids, all the way up until 6th grade, if they attend a charter or magnet school, it's in that budget. So there's a lot of things that go into that budget. It's not just the day-to-day educating of the kids that are in this building. So it is quite a large budget. It's a bigger increase this year. Last year it was the town side at 16, and this year it's us. And it's unfortunate that it has to happen in one year, but I did want you to be aware that all of the expenses in that budget are everything 35 School Road. Thank you.
Next.
Jeff Ballard, Lake Road, Andover, and I think it's my understanding that the only way the townspeople can separate the AES budget from the town budget is if this fails twice, and then they get separated. Is that correct? So if it's defeated tonight, then it's separated.
That referendum.
That referendum. Okay, thank you.
It's bifurcated if it fails at referendum.
The way it's worded is if the majority of those voting at the referendum shall vote no, then the proposed budget is defeated and it shall be bifurcated as set forth below in section 803D. So if it fails at referendum, it becomes bifurcated.
Anyone else before I go back to John?
There's no back here.
I'll get to you in a second, Chair.
Debbie Scanlon, 23 Shotty Mill Road. I just have a question on the way that the AES surplus is now being handled. Instead of coming under the improvement fund, it's all of the surplus money is now going into just an AES surplus infrastructure fund, capital improvement fund. And so from year to year, that number is going to change because it's after their audit, correct? Whatever is left is going to go into just that fund. And I appreciate that our town uses some of that leftover tax money the next year to offset increases, because we've already paid taxes on that money. So I'm always one that appreciates that we use that leftover money. And I'm just worried if there isn't a cap or a limit on that extra money from the AES fund, because I will support the budget, but I'm just worried that that fund is going to grow, and it's only going to be used for the school when that money shouldn't all be used for the school if there's that much surplus. We should be using it to run our government the next year because we've already paid taxes on that money. So I think that's something that should be considered and looked at again. I'm not sure when or where this came up, but I think that should have a cap also on how much goes into that infrastructure fund.
Okay, it's definitely a fair question. So just a couple of clarifications and explanation of how this works, because it's a little bit complicated, Valerie, whatever, Kate, jump in if I miss this. So basically, state law says that up to 2% of any surplus that occurs in the education budget automatically rolls into a non-lapsing account for things in school, like school improvements, okay? That's not enough to fund the changes, the improvements that are going to be needed at Andover Elementary. We all recognize that when we established the capital fund for Andover Elementary, and we did vote to put a fair amount of money in there. That being said, it's a fair point. You don't want it to go like that year over year. If we're running that kind of surplus all the time, I say, personally, I think that that's a bad sign. I don't expect that we will. But we did in the past fiscal year, okay? And the Board of Finance would certainly be incumbent upon us to review that very closely, if that continued to happen. And if you decided to not permit that money surplus to go back into that capital fund, it would then just be absorbed back into the town's funds. So absolutely, that's what would happen. We voted on it this year. We agreed that we should move that money into the AES capital fund. They've got a lot of big improvements they need to make. We've got some infrastructure problems over there. And the parking lot was an issue last year. The bathrooms are an issue. We've got a failing elevator system that's is needed every day. So totally agree. Can't just let that grow out of control. We've got to watch that, and it's going to be incumbent upon the Board of Finance to do that.
Good evening, I'm Shannon Rowland, 248 Bearswamp Road. Just to emphasize what Mark has said, two things need to happen for the Board of Education to be allowed to move money into either our 2% non-lapsing account or the capital fund. And that is to get the permission of the Board of Finance. So it's not something we can unilaterally do. We have to ask permission of the Board of Finance. By law, we can put 2% into our non-lapsing account, which means it doesn't lapse. And by virtue of a policy that was just entered this past year, we can now, because we have such significant improvements that need to be made to our capital, and we don't have a separate capital fund, ask for any surplus in our budget after the audit to be put into our capital fund. The thing I wanted to comment on is this. Last year, the town voted for a 16% increase to the town's budget. The reason we don't have an increase in the town's budget this year, but in fact can benefit from a little decrease in the town's budget, is because we gave the town a 16% increase in the town's budget last year. The Board of Education is now asking for half of that. And we're asking for half of that at a time that's critical in the development of our school. We now have a student population that is 1/3 more than it's been, and we have 240 plus students going to this school. We critically need that so that we don't have classroom sizes in excess of 25 or 30 students. So for everybody who thinks that we have classroom sizes of 10 or 15, please look at our monthly agenda, because it tells you how many students are in our classrooms. 4th, 5th, and 6th grade are now about 25 students. Those are the students who eventually will go on to RAM, so we won't always get the benefit of the RAM, decrease will be levied. But right now, we need an increase in our teacher population. 3.1 is full-time employee. We need at least that to satisfy the needs of our student population. That's to keep the classroom sizes at a level that's not 10 or 15 students. It's a size that's manageable for our teachers, which is absolutely critical. As I said, what we've seen by putting in a pre-K is that we now have 60 students in our pre-kindergarten classes. That gets students who are 3 and 4 years old into our student population. They're no longer going to magnet schools. Previously, we had to pay in excess of $5,000 per student on top of what you pay in taxes to send a student to a magnet school. We don't do that very much anymore because we get the students in at the pre-K level at 3 and 4 years old, and they stay in our school. So we're seeing right now class sizes of about 25 in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. Those are going to continue to come through because we've got them in pre-K going forward. We therefore don't just need this budget increase now. We're not making a one-time request. We're going to need it for the future. We need these teachers now for this next year and in the future to meet the needs of our student population. Thanks very much.
Anyone else would like to back to John? You see no hands?
Down within the Lakeside Drive. So I'd like to go back to the town budget in 16% last year. Took the wind out of my sails, champion. And that was a lot. And we have a lot of spending that's gone on during this current administration for public works vehicles, backhoes, trucks, and staff. And I think that we've hit a saturation point. We don't have any more miles of roads in this town, but we've got 5 public works people, and there are extra projects to that level, and we needed 2 more people. So I think that's something we should look at. The other thing is the community center. Highly staffed, a lot of staff there. And then there's item number under senior centers. Better get my readers to this one. I like that. Under senior citizens, 4417, I would like to ask someone, Board of Finance, Board of Selectmen, what exactly is Resident Services Coordinator? If we're spending 2 people in our community center, senior center now, what is this number here, $6,110 for a resident services coordinator? Wouldn't one of the people that's in the community center take care of this? What exactly is this?
And none of the Board of Finance wants to handle it.
Yeah, I'm closer, okay. So this is my understanding, this is a mandated position by state law. Eric, I tell me, right?
So one part of that job is mandated by state law.
Yeah, so one part of that job is mandated by state law. We did discuss in the Board of Finance meeting with Eric, went back and forth about potentially offloading that work and those activities into the community center director. And basically, the answer was that they don't have the bandwidth. If you don't fund this position, I'll have to do it somewhere else. Am I remembering the basic gist of that conversation? Yeah. So we decided to leave that in there for now. Of course, we'll do that as we go on. The community center is new, the staffing is new. We really kind of have to see how all that plays out. But that was the decision.
Anyone else before I go back to our meeting?
So as anybody that watches the Board of Finance meetings knows, I'm not afraid to speak up. I'm usually the one that's making motions, and since you did ask, I appreciate the synopsis that our chairman gave, but I did bring it up also, and I'd like to let the taxpayers know that this position, from what I've been able to investigate, anytime I make a decision to ask for a change or a cut, I do a lot of research. It's very hard when you're talking about a person, a beloved person that maybe works at the town hall and has taken on a task when another person left, and they've taken it on for an additional stipend. I work in a school system, and as anyone that works in a school system knows, there's times you may be asked to take on a stipend to do extra work. So there might be a year I get it, or they might have someone available to do that work the next time. So, they come and go. So we were thankful that this beloved person at the town hall did that work. So my idea was, now that we brought on, so happy to have the senior community center, and now that we brought on 2 workers that work there, it kind of made sense for the taxpayers in town, which is why I was elected, to do the dirty work and look into the weeds, bring up suggestions, maybe put my face to it. People aren't going to be that happy with me, but if I find something where there could be a little bit of savings so we could spend it somewhere else, I'm going to do it. So that's what I did in this case. We brought on, a part-time worker who the Board of Finance thought we would hire a full-time worker for the same amount of salary, but we weren't part of that. So then we have another worker. So our thought with this position, every town I found out has to have a municipal agent for the elderly. So great service, great person that is there and gives the information, answers the question, acts as this agent. I took time to call many senior centers and ask them if they fill that dual role of municipal agent for the elderly, and they do indeed do that. Towns that are so much bigger than us, twice the size of us. We're a tiny town, I like to call us, 3,000 residents. So my idea was just, as hard as it was, this person that gets this stipend, which currently costs the town $6,100, it gets funneled into some retirement amounts, so it's costing the taxpayers $7,400 in the current budget. My idea was there'd be enough notice to this person that thank you so much for your service, but we're not going to fund that this year because we now have 2 people in the senior center that might be able to take on that role. So that's my explanation. I did make the motion and it was denied. There may be a time later tonight that someone wanted to take that on again. It's a cut to a line there. Again, I don't get personal, because if I get personal and think of the person, I can't operate that way. To me, it would have been great if our manager in the town kind of steamrolled this and it was well thought of ahead of time. And this isn't a knock on him, it's just the way that I would work. It was the time you could kind of have 2 new people coming into an office, taking on the duties, behind the scenes, talking to the beloved worker that already took on these duties and tell her that there might be a change. So, thank you.
for me. Here you go. Yes. Roberta Doherty, to Merritt Valley Road. I am the resident service coordinator for the town of Andover. I've been doing this job since 2019, when the previous resident service coordinator worked a total of 5 hours a week, retired. I came in at a time when we had nobody. I took over this position that was being paid at one point in time $10,000 a year. I work 34 hours a week in the town hall. If somebody comes in, I'm there. The previous person was only there 5 hours a week and only took phone calls when they were working those 5 hours a week. So if you were somebody that needed something for social services or from the municipal agent, they would only take your calls during those 5 hours that they were working. We also have the new part-time coordinator of the senior center, and they're less than part-time person working in the office as well. They are not there 34 hours a week to take those calls and help those people as they walk in. It is strange for the social service coordinator to be in the assessor's office, because that is my full-time job. But I can tell you why it works. When you have a question with your taxes, and you have things that qualify you for exemptions, like being disabled or elderly, I already have that in my office. I'm the one that provides those exemptions on your taxes, if you can prove that you qualify. Those needs might need something else, like where you can go get food stamps, where you can go get services. You don't have to tell your story to me and then walk over to the senior center and tell the director there your whole story of what you need and what they can do for you. Right now, it works, and I enjoy doing it, and I enjoy serving the community. I just want you to understand what I do and where I do it. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer them for you. Thank you.
I hope I'm not talking very loud on here, and I hope I'm not. Yeah, you can hear? Okay, thank you. I just want to say something. Okay, I am retired. I have been senior coordinator for the town of Andover for 26 years. In those 26 years, I did do the municipal agent work as well as senior coordinator. I enjoyed the job. And I have always said, and I'm going to say it tonight, and everyone's going to be very angry, the job deserves to get paid. There's no doubt about it. I know in the rules or the charter or something, it does say that we should have a volunteer. I was your volunteer, and I was your volunteer for 26 years. Now I have to tell you, we need to pay. I'm not saying we need to pay a lot of money, sorry for it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, yes, we need to pay. And so let's just talk about something else. Let's talk about the senior center. I'm going to call it the senior center. You can call it the community and senior center, whatever you'd like. I was on that committee. I worked on that committee, my husband and I, helping to hopefully build something that we would be proud of. I think we are proud of this building. I'd like to see more people come to the building. It's been very unfortunate. I retired in December, but we've had a few health problems and not been able to attend as much as I want to. We're going to get back on track. However, I want to say thank you very much to the Board of Finance. I think you have the worst job in the town. And I want to say also, I always thought it was the Board of Selectmen that had the worst job. And now I've decided it's the Board of Finance, because every year you get paid out, every year. I want to just say about the Board of Education. I think we have a great school in town, and I'm sorry, I need to pay to need the money. And I'm hoping that Valerie and Taylor
they're just great, and they've been so good to us. I can't believe they're putting the money in their pocket for the school. I don't know I don't care. I just don't believe it, that's all. And perhaps I'll be wrong, and you'll say, you don't know what you're talking about, I probably don't. But anyway, thank you very much, and thank you, Board of Finance.
Thanks, Debbie.
Okay. Well, you called the question, correct? Is someone going to second that motion? Okay, seconded by Debbie Scanlon. This motion is to end. Wait. So I have one call for question. And vote on the motion. Okay. This motion is to end the debate, or the discussion, if you want to call it that. I will call for a rising vote on this motion. All in favor of ending this discussion, please rise. This is to end the discussion and vote on moving the budget forward. Yeah, this is to stop this discussion. Okay, you may sit down. All those opposed and want to continue with the discussion, please rise. It's the opinion of the moderator, the motion is passed.
Can you tell us here we go.
The discussion is over on the vote that was just made. Are you going to make a motion to reduce the line item or the budget?
Yes, I have to open it for discussion.
You have to make the motion, and the motion has to be seconded before that can be opened for discussion. You can make a motion to reduce a line item or the bottom line, and someone has to second it, and then we go to discussion.
Give me a moment to find the line. I would like to make a motion to reduce, it's under employee benefits, it's 141, the account is 4117, 141215. I think I have found something that there was a mistake on the spreadsheet, so I would like to make a motion to reduce that line. By $25,000. If you go on,
What page is it on?
so page 6 of 14, under employee benefits, is the third one down, is the health/dental insurance line 141215. So I'd like to make that motion because when you make a motion, you open it for discussion.
Anyone want to second her motion? Okay, now open for discussion.
I was going to ask earlier to get some feedback from our town manager, Eric Anderson, and then hopefully that we have our computer open. Just today, I was, we've been pouring through these spreadsheets. What you're seeing is a small little microcosm of what we've been doing. And in the past week, I've been learning how the spreadsheets have been set up because we don't set them up. So we found multiple formulas, multiple things that feed in. We've been making corrections. We've all been working as a board to do this. And just today, in a final thing, going through my notes to bring here tonight, I wanted to ask Mr. Anderson, I believe there's a mistake in this, and I feel like the total that was brought over is the health insurance benefit, the total. Whereas usually when you work in a school system or a town agency, you pay a portion of your benefits. So I feel like they imported the wrong total. So the bottom line I'm looking at here is 239,954. So I have this page, all of you can see, I was scribbling this before I got here, trying to come up with a total, but I didn't want to be late for the meeting. But I feel confident that if I'm right, it's probably going to be higher than what I'm motioning to reduce. I want to reduce by 20,000. I'd like to send it out for the corrections. We've gotten a legal opinion from our town attorney that if the Board of Finance agrees, and if you find a mistake, that it can be corrected. I happen to know he's here tonight. You know, it's just a mistake in the clerical work that we don't do. We don't put it together, but I get into the weeds, like I said, and I found this, so I wanted to bring it to the attention. I think the total is the combination of what the town pays and the employee pays, and that's what's been represented for the taxpayers. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I'd rather bring it up.
Good idea. Somebody second.
Yes, so that's the way it is, because that's we done a lot of it.
Yeah. So there's an amount that is the town amount. If you go down, if you scroll down, this amount here is the health insurance, including a 7% increase, which shows us that amount for a single employee. Then we add this HSA payment that the town has to pay. We pay the dental cost. So it's the total right here. However, look at this for just the health care. When you go down below, and we're given, if you scroll down, we're given the math where they figure this out. Okay? So it's supposed to be per year, that amount. So when I was doing fast math today, it should have been, see how this total is 193? It should have been. We're allowed to make a correction, so if I found it, I at least want them to look at it.
Right. Oh, they're just learning. That just gets It's gonna be good.
This is not a correction per se. This is an actual motion to reduce a line item so that everyone understands.
Right, I get that this is different. One is here, mine is here. That would be a finance director.
So.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to, what you're trying to figure out. Someone has a question on this motion? It was seconded, yes.
Yeah, it's already on. So it's negative.
Right now, we have a motion on the floor. Wait, you ask me on the spot. Clara.
So.
Point.
Save the town money, and this is right, you know, it's supposed to be just, this is
All right.
I don't want her.
So just to follow up, the spreadsheet formulas appear to be correct. The data that was put into the spreadsheet, Joanne thinks it's incorrect because it's referenced below it that says it's a slightly less money for the transportation, 2,000 per employee, or for a family. Yeah. So the finance director is not here, you can specifically answer that question. So what I would just say, as a taxpayer, we get one of two choices. We can vote to approve this amendment or this motion, reduce the budget by the amount as presented. And if it turns out that the numbers are correct, we'll have to find that money from somewhere else, the contingency fund. If it turns out that we can also decide to not pass the motion, leave it as is, and if it turns out that it really was less, then the town will have a surplus. Those are our two options, just kind of stating what I think will happen from those.
Okay. We have a motion on the floor to reduce the line item by $20,000. Motion's been made, seconded, and discussed. Is there any further questions? I'd rather not. You're taking over the floor. I asked everyone 3 minutes.
Wally, I'm not arguing with anyone. I have spent so much time the last 3 weeks trying to go through this, so I just want to be able to clarify. Yeah, I just want to, yes, we do. So I think that we could go so much higher than this, but I don't want to do that to the town, so I feel comfortable that I made the motion to reduce by 20,000. I have a feeling that this happened year after year, so I feel confident in the numbers, and so that's why I'm only limiting it to a $20,000. Oh, did I say 20? I'm usually not that bad. It must be all the hours I'm devoting to this time, but I'll go in the middle. Thank you for correcting that it's 25. So I feel comfortable that it's going to come up higher. And that's it. I did do the research on it. I know that I didn't have time to know. They've gotten 1 million emails from me in this past 2 weeks, so I just discovered it today. That's all. Thank you, Wally.
You all have, when you came in the door, a packet of 7 ballots. This would be ballot number 1. If you vote yes, you are reducing the budget by $20,000, $25,000. If you vote no, you are not voting to reduce the budget. If you mark ballot number 1, the register will come around to pick up your ballot. We'll be in recess for 1 minute, please.
So it's been 3 years. Oh, it's sorry. Yeah.
All of that, Tim? All of that, Tim? And come back to order again, please.
My family's gonna be sick, it's coming. I know. I'm wondering if you're so I can hear you, Wally.
All right, there's nothing other motions to reduce any line items. But are there any motions?
So I've said it many times tonight, Public Works is over $500,000. It's growing and growing. It has grown substantially over this current administration. Vehicles, staffing, and they have the same mileage. So I'd like to make a motion to reduce Public Works by $50,000.
One 399, one item on
Yeah, so that salary line is going on this letter.
Salary line is fine. We've grown from 3 people to 5 people to part-time people to summer help. We did 2 teams, now we have 2 teams and a supervisor. We've got tax increases the last bunch of years. My goodness, yeah? Thank you.
Is there a second to that motion?
Lori Otterino.
Okay, a motion has been made and seconded. Any discussion?
I would just say, the roads in this town, the condition in this town, back when we had a town select person instead of administrator, current board, I know where I lived in was in shambles. It was absolutely falling apart. It was nothing but potholes. The roads were not getting mowed regularly, dead trees weren't being taken down. There's more people because there's work being done now to improve the infrastructure of the town. You can't do more with the same amount of money. So I think that explains it. Oh, Bill DeRoche, Bearswamp Road. Sorry.
Further discussion on the motion? Okay, if there's no further discussion, ballot number 2 on the packet when you get through the door. Yes, is to reduce this line item. No, it's not to reduce the line item. Is everyone turning their bell on the second vote? Okay, the first item that we voted on, reducing budget for the health benefits section was 44 yes, 63 no. The motion was defeated. Now working on the second one. Want another one?
Grab the microphone, nobody can hear you. Thank you.
Dennis Cameron, 23 Shining Mill Road. Under section 4214, community center, I'd like to take a motion to cut the community center assistant position line item by $10,712.
Is there a second to that motion?
By how much?
I'll second it.
Said the whole thing.
Discussion.
I'm not in favor of this at all because we definitely need, her name is Kim, as any of you know her, and she's a fantastic asset to us. And we cannot afford to cut her position because, first of all, the new director she has little experience, she's doing her best, but she needs Kim. And Kim needs to, I want to say, get the swap, pick up the swap. Do not, please do not cut her off. Please do not.
Discussion on the motion.
What page? Louise Goodwin, Lakeside Drive.
I very much agree with you. Kim has been an asset. Tess has been a great asset. She's doing a great job at the senior center. We are starting with volunteers. We need more volunteers and out the volunteers. You know, if she leaves, she goes home after dinner. She doesn't get paid. Neither are them. Both of them are there after 2 o'clock. We don't get paid. If anything, we need more money for them. Not reduce it.
Further discussion of the motion.
Orange Costa down in Lake Road, Andover. Mine is kind of just a question. Why did the salary double? That's what I was trying to ask before someone asked the question. Why did it go from 5,000 to 10,000? I don't think we should cut it, definitely, but why did it not?
Well, the other thing, yeah.
Well,
What they got?
So this past summer, we hired a director for the senior and community center. And the original intention of that was to have that person perform 3 basic roles. The first was dealing with all things related to the senior center. The second was community programming for the senior center. And the third was to take over and be kind of the liaison for all the recreational activities for the town. The goal being everything that was community centered to fall under one umbrella. The original budget for the director was reduced last year by the Board of Finance. We did interview, I think, a total of 5 candidates. We went back to, we had a preferred candidate, 1 alternate, and 1 emergency fallback. All 3 of the candidates we interviewed would not have taken the position for the amount of money that the Board of Finance allocated to the position. So we were forced to hire that position as part-time. So I negotiated enough less than the cap that I had some money remaining. And also that we had originally budgeted that person to, as a full-time employee, you know, you're eligible for health care both for yourself and a spouse. So we were able to hire somebody for less than we had budgeted, number 1. And number 2, that they were willing to take fee in lieu of instead of health care. So I took the money saved from those 2 things and used it to hire an assistant for that position because, you know, we pretty clearly needed more man hours, or woman hours in this case, at that position. So this budget, we're not increasing the hours for the assistant in this budget, nor are we increasing the salary, the hourly wage for that person. It was simply something that was not budgeted, yes, in last budget, but the money was available because we took it from unused money from benefits and also from the salary from the director. So that's where it was. In this year, that money doesn't show up in the benefits category because the benefits have been adjusted based on the actual personnel we have, but it shows up in the salary line item. That answers your question.
Further questions or comments? Hearing none. We'll call for a vote. This would be ballot number 3 to reduce by 10,000. All right, so you got ballot number 3, yes, 0 or no is to keep. And for Public Works, 91 no, 18 yes. So the benefit package for this, the salary line item for Public Works will not be reduced. And registrars will be around collecting your ballots. Again, this is ballot number 3. The Public Works, 91 no, 18 yes, was defeated. So that item has not been reduced.
Wally, you have a motion on the floor.
Ballot number 3.
I know. I just want to be clear, so I'll say it again. If we can have a vote after this by standing or not, by rising or not. My motion was to call the question on voting for or against the budget, which I thought would have ended discussion and motions. So my motion is to call the question on voting in favor or not of the budget.
Okay.
Thank you.
You want to make a motion right now to vote on the final budget?
I do.
After we count these ballots, if you could, please. Is there a second? All those in favor of voting on the full budget, please rise. I don't think I need to count. Thank you. Put your ballots in, we'll get to the main motion.
Yes, this one's done. Now we're gonna move on. Setting it for a flight.
I was wait, I would not mark it. Yeah, totally.
What's the question?
Everyone turn in your ballots.
You signed up for that? You didn't come to our meeting?
Or the, not the, it's Saturday.
Yeah, on the 19th will be.
All right, technically, the vote to send the budget to referendum is kind of a moot point, because if you look at the town charter, it automatically goes to referendum. But as a matter of giving people a chance, all those in favor of accepting the town budget and sending it to referendum, please say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Nay. In the opinion of the chair, the budget goes to referendum. In the meantime, if item 4 is in order, if someone wants to make said motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor of adjourning, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
Yeah. That meeting is.